Hello, and on behalf of VMUG, I'd like to welcome you to today's webcast, Hybrid Cloud Storage for Virtualized Environments, presented by Ray Soto, Solution Architect for Zadara, and Greg Newman, VP Partner Marketing for Zadara. Thank you for your participation in today's webcast and for your continued support in the Global VMUG program. Before we begin, I have 3 quick housekeeping items to go over. First, today's webcast will be recorded and available for you on demand. You will receive an email with the on-demand link, so keep an eye out for that. Second, a Q&A session will follow today's presentation. All questions will need to be entered in the question window near the bottom of your GoToWebinar screen. Third, there will be a short online evaluation that pops up as you exit the webcast. Please take a minute and let us know what you thought of today's session and what you might like to see going forward. All attendees from today's webcast who opted in at registration will be entered into a raffle to win a $100 Amazon gift card. The winner will be contacted directly by Zadara, so good luck. All right, let's get started. Greg, I'll turn it over to you now.
Thanks, Julie. Hi, everybody. Glad to be here with Ray. We're going to talk a little bit today about hybrid cloud storage for virtualized environments. Sounds like kind of a big topic. We're actually going to get into some specifics since you can learn a little bit more about virtual private clouds on AWS and other locations, including your own premises, and how to work with them, we think, more effectively. So that's the gist of it. Let me show you who you're talking to, who's talking to you. Ray, nice to be with you today, by the way. Hi.
Hi, nice to be with you too, Greg.
There's your mug, mine. It's always good to put a face to the name, right? Everybody can see who we are. We're going to get into the topic today. Here's the agenda. It's a highlight agenda, power of VMware virtualization. I think everybody on this call knows full well the power of VMware. And at Zadara, we do too, being partners with VMware. We'll get into some of that. How can you enhance VMware? There's certainly some things that I think we can show you today to help you perhaps come away with a better understanding of what you can do to enhance VMware. And we'll demonstrate that with some use cases as well. Now, we do have time at the end for a Q&A, but I'd like to point out before we get started, if you have questions while we're going along, please do take some time, put them into the questions panel over on the GoToWebinar interface, because if we have time in the course of the presentation, I'd like to call up those questions and Ray and I can answer them while we're going along. Sometimes it's nice to be able to answer a question or address an issue right while we're on the slide that we're talking about. So please, if you have anything like that, go ahead and enter it in there, and we'll do our best to pay attention to that and address them as we go. All right, let's jump in. Because I'm the marketing guy, I can't help myself. I want to take just a moment to point out who Zadara is and why we exist, and then we're going to dive into our topic in earnest. First of all, our mission is very simple in life, and that is we seek to deliver to enterprise IT users and storage users the control of enterprise storage and all the features and functions of enterprise storage in a model that gives you the agility of the cloud. So, in a nutshell, it's almost like you're eating your cake and having it too. It was something that people didn't think could be done. We did it. We have patented software. We run on commodity hardware, and we'll talk more about that later. But it took a couple of patents and some really smart founders of this company 10 years ago, but figured out how to do it, and it's pretty cool. Here's some of the companies that like to use our stuff, our services. We have many, many more. We have over 300 points of presence around the world. And we like to joke, of course, the sun never sets on Zadara. We have teams on 4 continents doing 24/7 monitoring. And we're dealing with companies in all kinds of industries, all kinds of different use cases and workloads, big companies, small companies. They're really, in the 10 years we've been doing this, there's really nothing we haven't seen. And so when looking at what Zadara might be good for, just know that if you're in the enterprise storage game, we've likely got a solution to fit your needs. Okay, let's take a pause, take a breath. The commercial message is over. Let's get into this thing, Ray. The idea of virtual private clouds, will you start us off? I'm guessing everybody here knows what a VPC is, but let's start there. What's a virtual private cloud? Why do these things matter?
Well, they matter. I mean, it's building your own little environment that you can actually, provide your hosting information, databases, whatever. I mean, it's just getting it all into a very secure environment that, the public clouds do very well. I mean, you got AWS, Google. They all do very well on that. And you can also, consider it like an on-premise solution, but it's offsite. And that's the way, I consider looking at it.
Yeah.
The only thing that does happen is it presents challenges when you want to go, outside that thing. What this kind of illustrates here is, if you want to kind of connect to different locations, give yourself a better footprint outside, your little your private cloud there, it takes some money. Cost this, cost that. Some things, some situations, you can't make that connection there, and that presents a problem. And that's where we come in. We can actually help with that type of solution where it helps with the cost, it helps with the making the connections that are not possible.
So yeah, so I think anybody on this webinar who's encountered this before knows that virtual private clouds have some wonderful attributes and advantages, but you do get yourself stuck a little bit, don't you, when it comes to setting them up. So and nobody wants another data silo, right? I mean, if you can avoid that, isn't that really, part anyway of what the promise of cloud computing is all about? It's, better choices, more choices, the ability to operate with more agility. And here you are getting stuck again. And so you're right, Ray. We figured out that there's a way to avoid that by doing what? By sticking Zadara Enterprise Data Cloud right smack in the middle of this.
Exactly.
Talk about how this works.
Exactly. So, we, as you put it, we'll slap it right in the middle between you. We can make the connections between, all the clouds available to you, the public ones, the on-premise solutions, and we integrate with everything else around it. We're very cloud agnostic. And we can also simultaneously communicate with multiple clouds at the same time. So you have your compute power, let's say in this case Google, and the other one in AWS, and they can share the same data at the same time. That's where we come in really nicely.
Yeah, this is. I just want to take a moment here because this is where we get a lot of questions from our customers who are trying to achieve an operating environment where they're not having to manage these silos, and they hear us say you can present the same data at the same time simultaneously to different environments. Talk about that a little bit more, because it really is literally that easy.
It is. We have slides down, later slides that kind of illustrate that, more of a visual perspective of how we do that. It's basically all the networking that we have available using dark fibers and the colo locations, our ability to actually mirror behind the scenes. It's all are built in with us, and how we set ourselves up within these networks of between the virtual private clouds.
So you're right.
It's that easy.
It's not easy to behind the scenes. Look, everybody who runs enterprise storage for a living knows that enterprise storage is complex. There's no getting away from that. How do we simplify our environments to the extent that we can? And one way to do that is to unify and not be running around in an environment with data floating out everywhere. You're right. We are going to get into a little bit more detail. So for everybody on this webinar that is wondering what you're going to get out of it, please know if this looks like something that is interesting to you and you think that your environment could benefit from something like this, you're going to see in the coming minutes here a little bit more about that, or a lot more about that, in some very specific ways. And so I hope that'll be enjoyable to you. This is very much a roll up your sleeves kind of a webinar, in other words. I wanted to unpack that box on the last slide a little bit and show people what's inside of an enterprise data cloud, because the name enterprise data cloud could mean a lot of things. Those are three words that get used a lot, right? And so what is an enterprise data cloud when you're dealing with Zadara? I think at its core, and I want you to talk to us a little bit about this, we have our virtual private storage, and our virtual private object store as well. And notice the word private is right smack in the middle of that.
Right. What we really looking at here is, if you consider the whole legacy storage environments, the enterprise, we pretty much just virtualize that whole concept into this layer as we're showing here. It's on demand, it can be changed up on the fly. it's so much easier than really having to think about provisioning ahead. What kind of capacities in performance do we need? And one thing we like to say in most of our calls with customers here is you can never get it wrong with us because we're that easy to change. We fit every, we talked about markets that we fit in. I haven't found one that we have not fit in yet. At least I haven't talked to anybody that we have not. We as below the line below there shows your analytics, your DevOps, your fields, remote offices, production. We can fit the archiving, we can fit the file block, we can fit all these types of needs that comes across entertainment, gaming, all those types of environments, and we make the connections to an on-premise location. We can sit inside there and then go communicate outside if we need to. Service providers, hyperscale clouds, it's all within our, I guess you would call it DNA, that we can actually work with everything that comes our way. I haven't seen anything that we have not been able to fulfill. Which is very unique.
And now some situations are tougher than others. Let's not pretend, right? Like
no, we're not pretending. They're tough. We'll get around it. We'll make it work. Our engineering team is fantastic. They would help out wherever they can. Our ops team will sit with all these customers to get over the problem that they are coming across. You're right. It's not that easy. Enterprise and all this. There is more. I mean, it's kind of like don't look behind the curtain of what's really going on because you just get the connection. Here you go.
Well, but that brings up a good point, and I want to talk about that for a second because there's two things that we should unpack there. Number one, look, at the end of the day, what you're getting from us, especially if you're on-prem, this is a good example. You may choose to deploy Zadara adjacent to a hyperscale public cloud, and you wouldn't see this quite as readily, but we're in both the hardware and the software business. And in the end, what we're really in is the services business. And when you talk about don't look behind the curtain, it's funny because we talk with customers at the outset of relationships, and they frequently come to us. You've heard this before, I know, but I think everybody on this call will be interested to hear this, that they come to us frequently for our capabilities in the storage itself. Gee, you guys can do all these wonderful features and functions. Looks like you can really replicate my enterprise storage environment, but now do it in a cloud model. And they're thinking that they're going to be running their storage just as they've run it before, and they certainly are free to do that. About 6 months into it, however, we find many of our customers have really come to rely on our services team, like you mentioned, our ops team, because we're talking about a senior team that is running your storage in a proactive manner, alerting you to problems, making sure you're not violating thresholds. And this really is a transformative kind of an experience. This is now something that allows you to be freed up to go take your time and spend it elsewhere and other strategic projects. It's just a totally different approach to storage, even though at the heart of it, it is very much just a standard software-defined storage on top of commodity hardware kind of an environment.
Correct. Yeah, we take care of the hardware itself. We monitor it. We're proactive. We'll ship drives. Let's like you said, let's be honest with everything. Drives do fail.
Yeah.
We do get notified of using the smart technology of the drives. We can say, okay, that drive's about to fail. We'll ship one out to replace it immediately. With the help of the colocation and the remote hands or wherever we need to be. So yeah, very much 24/7. Always monitoring. We become like the NOC department for whoever our customer is.
Yeah, and I think the audience would appreciate this slide, so I wanted to include it. And Ray, you can talk to this about. You mentioned a drive failing. What a great springboard for a conversation here about the environment and what we've built and how it works.
Right. What we're trying to illustrate here, I mean, if you take the concept of legacy storage stuff, we can consider that in these three little scenarios here. You have your SSD or your HDD with cache, and then you have your object storage, which we're very Swift compliant. We're S3 compliant with it. And they all come with the same architecture, the same footprint, as you will, that you can carve out this environment any way you want. You can change it up any way you want. We're elastic in the growth. We're elastic in the compute, not the compute, I'd say the controller power. You can go up or down and scale that way. Let's take this little environment here that we have. we're talking about 6 storage nodes. Now, I know we kind of briefly talk about commodity storage or hardware, and that's what it is. It's a very high-end commodity stuff you can get off the shelf that we actually just apply our stack in. The drives are very enterprise level too. We support the latest and greatest drives themselves from hardware. We're up to the 14 terabytes. The latest SSDs are 7.6 terabytes that we all support, and they're all out there. And we provide that to you at no cost. And if you want to use those, great. It's just a matter of just sending them out and implementing them. But let's carve out this environment here. 6 storage nodes. It's a cluster. It can grow. It can shrink. And it all depends on the pool size that we have there. So let's say like the first one could be a customer A or department A, depending on how you want to look at it. They need a lot of performance, so that you can apply an SSD array there. In the legacy one, you would go out and shop for a product that does SSD, but we can do that here, and we carve it out with the 4 drives. Now, in this case, you got your department running and they grow, and you say, okay, I need to grow, I need more drives. What we're looking at here in those white little drives that you see there, those could be SSDs availability. They're just sitting there cold, ready for usage. They're not consumed because we are consumption based. So the only one that you're consuming right now are those 4 that are highlighted there in gray encircled. You'll just bring in those white drives in there, and voila, you actually grown your array right off there. If you need to grow any more, you can call us up and say, hey, we'll ship you more drives out there to fit your capacity needs. At the same time, sometimes it happens. Like I said, we're all being honest here. We lose customers, and we no longer need that capacity. Well, you can remove those drives, put them back into cold, and you won't be charged for them. And then the bill gets adjusted just for your consumption base. I hope that makes sense to everybody. I'm not seeing any questions coming up. So
I'm glad you mentioned the shrinking part, because it happens. Whether you got a project that you're working on for a few months and then the project terminates, there's a number of reasons, right? But the ability to shrink and to know that you can shrink and not pay any penalty for that, you're just not going to find that with anybody else. It's not happening.
It's very difficult to find that. And that applies to all the tiers that we have, the SSDs or the HD cache, and then your object storage. The rules apply there too. It's the same thing. There is no difference. But hopefully this kind of shows that we support all of them within the same infrastructure, and it's up to you. How do you want to carve that out?
So I just got a question, and I promised everybody we'd ask questions when they come up. It says here, please talk a little bit more about your object lock feature and data immutability for backups. It's true. I don't know that we're addressing that elsewhere in this presentation explicitly. So maybe we can make a quick talk about that here. It's a terrific feature, and obviously when you're looking at backups and you're living, as we all are, in a world where ransomware unfortunately is all too real, immutability suddenly really matters. Ray, do you want to talk a little bit about it? I don't want to get too off track here, but I think it's a good question.
Yeah, we are one of the few that actually does have immutability locking feature in there with Veeam. To be very blunt about it, that we are a pro partner with them, and they utilize this very much in that aspect. It's a matter of a bucket. Just you can just click a bucket and say, I want this one to be immutable. Any data and everything in there just becomes immutable. It's all policy based, how long you want it to be immutable. And I don't know how much you say it works.
That's all you really need to know.
It's like, it's very interesting. Not be able to delete, move, change, do anything with those files. It's a great protection against ransomware.
It's exactly for anybody listening that has any concern and it's looking to set up a comprehensive backup solution and a strategy. Whether you work with Zadara or not, or whether you work with Veeam or not, if you're not bringing to your solution the ability to have immutable data, you're really missing out on the key component. And there's a reason for that. And again, we don't want to get too off track, but ransomware can be put onto your system and can sit idle for days, weeks, or months before it's launched, and you won't know it. So please do your homework on that. Backup is not something that should be an afterthought in today's environment. It really should be something that's thought about up front. And so many of us, and I'm as guilty of this as the next guy, so many of us have put backup off, and put backup on the back burner, you might say, right? And I've just seen firsthand you really can't do that. So we're not going to turn this into a backup discussion, but it's something near and dear to our hearts. We manage storage for a living, and we see it. When it's done right, it's a pleasure because our customers are up and running in a few minutes, right? They're not taken down by it.
Exactly.
Ray, we've got a bunch of capabilities. This is too much to talk about, I know, but I wondered if you hit some of the highlights.
Yeah, it's kind of summarizing everything that that we support there. The capabilities we do: block, we do file, we do objects. As we mentioned multiple times there, I mean, we support all the different communication protocols: NFS, CIF, fiber channel for on-premise, iSCSI, ICER. We're getting into the capabilities that have 100 gigabit networks, which is fantastic. Our NFS is climbing, so now we support. We just recently announced support for 4.1. I believe that's the latest one, 4.1 NFS, which is great. We do we integrate with the Microsoft AD systems environments, multi-zone environments, Kubernetes support. We have a CSI driver out there that has been certified by Red Hat, OpenShift.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a great move. We're trying to evolve it more into the Kubernetes environment, which is fantastic.
There's been a lot of push that way, hasn't there? It's interesting to watch that grow and develop.
Yes, very much so. Remote mirroring is part of our thing. As we start talking about protection, we can do remote mirroring. Anything you'd expect from an enterprise, snap copies, snapshots, cloning. We have all that built into our product. Let's just call it that.
Yeah,
encryption.
There's really nothing you can't do. We like to say. I mean, maybe there is, but we haven't found it really yet.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I was trying to allude to earlier, is if there is something there that would benefit the whole storage enterprise environment. I mean, we listen, we evaluate, we can probably implement it. Like I said, our engineering team is fantastic.
You gave me a thought there. That's a good point you made. I want to touch on it here. Because we're a service and we manage our software, we do roll out updates to customers. These are non-disruptive upgrades in two ways. One, the software, like we've just been talking about, and from time to time, new features will come along. Kubernetes is a good example. In the last couple of years, we've really been pushing into containers, and then of course the hardware as well, right? I mean, we don't talk about this as much as maybe we should, but it's a huge benefit. If new drives come out and you want to move to those new drives, we'll ship you the new drives, and the new drives come at a lower price point because, as we all know, new technology tends to bring with it greater efficiencies. And why shouldn't you be the beneficiary of those efficiencies? We'll take back the old drives, give you the new ones. We'll even do the migration with you. We'll plan it out and we'll do it so it's non-disruptive. That's just that whole services approach. I don't know that we talk enough about that, frankly.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think so. It's a good point. I mean, you talk the legacy, the CapEx type of environments where you purchase this equipment up front. There is no purchasing with us up front of hardware at all.
Yeah.
And to put more of a point on that, and there is no maintenance contract with us either.
Right.
I mean, you talk about you have to buy a 3-year, 5 years. No, we don't do that. To get new hardware, the latest and greatest, no, you don't have to go through your maintenance contract at all. It's just if it's available, if it makes sense to your environment, hey, give us a call, let us know. Yeah, I like to take advantage of that. We making the announcements that, hey, we got these new servers, we have these new technology, we have these other patches.
Yeah.
It's up, you can let us know. I would like to take advantage of that, and we'll work with you to do the upgrades. And now when we talk about on non-disruptive one, our solution is an active and then passive controller type of environment. So I think most people that very familiar with this type of environment, you upgrade the non-active controller, upgrade that, fail everything over, and then upgrade the previous active controller, and there you go. You're non-disruptive, you're ready to go, and you got the latest and greatest software patches, stuff like that. But it's all, we communicate with all these customers and make sure that things are happening when it's going to happen. We have maintenance windows just to make sure. Because we don't want to be losing the latest. So it's up to the customer. Want to take advantage of it? Let us know. Hardware, new drives, new patches, stuff like that.
It's you just touched on an important point. I think that folks want to know that they're still going to be in control of their storage.
Yes.
And so I put this up on screen while you're talking because I know we get a lot of questions about this. How does it work? What do I get at the end of the day? Well, you get, as you can see on the screen, you get the interface that if you're familiar with running storage arrays and you do that for a living, then our interface is going to look just like what you're used to operating in probably. And it's going to give you all the same controls and the stuff that you're used to dealing with. So you do have your hands on the steering wheel if you want it. And we're here right behind you, right next to you. And you call upon us as much or as little as you need.
Right. Our user interface is very simple to use. It takes kind of all the best of everything and kind of puts it into one place. It's very intuitive. It flows very well. Gives you a lot of matrices that you can actually look at how you're performing, and you can make judgment calls on, like we're talking about, the controllers themselves. Do I need that much power? Can I lower it? It gives you the ability to make better, smarter calls on how you want to, build this.
Yep. It's different in one respect from your traditional array software interface, and that is that we have some functionality in there we like very much, and our customers like very much, and that's the ability to do chargebacks. Ray, you talked about different customers before, different departments. Many of our customers like to use the chargeback feature. It allows them to bill back. Pretty handy.
That's correct.
I gave no more need be said on that. I suppose it's pretty straightforward. But I did want to mention it. I don't want to belabor this. We did talk about this, but keep in mind that when you're looking to perhaps transform your storage experience from one that is dominated by either legacy storage and CapEx and even leasing that that all the legacy companies can do for you, or maybe you're looking to enhance your public cloud. The hyperscale public clouds are great, but their storage options are limited, as you know. We bring the best of all worlds together and really do it through a services approach, right? And that's what you can see on the screen here. We've talked quite a bit now about, at a high level, about how this stuff works. I hope everybody's got a good sense of what it is that we do, how we approach it, and why we're different. And now with that foundation, Ray, I think we can go through some use cases that you can help us understand that will showcase the impact of bringing Zadara into the equation in a few different use cases. Let's dive in. I'm going to put up on the screen the first one, the most obvious one, the one that we get a lot of questions about, is VMware Cloud on AWS. How do I enhance that? Talk to us.
Okay, perfect. Now let's just be clear here. We don't sit inside AWS. Just to clarify, we get that quite a bit, that we're trying to understand our concept of where we sit. We actually sit at a colocation adjacent to it, as close as possible to the facility of AWS. We like to be, within less than 2 milliseconds.
Yep, with direct connection.
With direct connects, yes. We are probably one of the biggest subscribers of direct connect for AWS. I think I've heard that from AWS that we are the largest.
We are the largest.
Perfect. There you go. Confirmed. So we provide the direct connects. We will make the connection into AWS, the environments, and then we can present that to your VPC with VMware themselves, and it's very straightforward, very simple type of connection environment that we do. We're just, your data is not within AWS; it's actually outside, so that gives you the capabilities of knowing where your data is actually at. Where at AWS, I don't know. It's in AWS.
Right. What drives it? Is it on? How does it work?
Exactly. Your neighbor is probably going to consume more of the resources that you sharing the drives with. We don't do that. We're very, very isolated, where the resources are allocated to you only, and they don't commingle.
So now you've gained control over your data in an environment like this. You can learn more, by the way, at our website. Check it out anytime. We'll put some more of this kind of information up at the end of the presentation. Let's talk about it so let's add to the equation now. Let's talk about it in a slightly more complex environment and see the impact here. We now have VMware Cloud on-prem in addition to having it on AWS. And Ray, you talked about sharing data before. Talk about this.
Right. So now you got a single source right there. Was your Zadara, your data sits there, and make the connections to AWS with the direct connects, and then in your VMware you can do vMotion, where you have a single source of data. It's that simple. It makes it very easy, very fast, and all I can say is it's just playing with networks. Lots of fun.
Yeah, right, exactly. So giving yourself additional choices allows you to think more strategically about what you're trying to accomplish and how you can ensure that your environment meets your business requirements. And a big term these days, we've all heard it, is business continuity. We alluded to ransomware earlier. Business continuity, the idea that whatever may impact you, you're not going to go down. You're going to be able to continue to operate in as seamless a manner as possible. This is now starting to get really strategic, Ray. Talk to us about this and how this works.
You have your on-premise solution. It's working fine, perfectly fine. Behind the scenes, you have one Zadara mirror into another Zadara at a different location. You get, like you said, your ransomware or whatever takes down your on-premise. It's just a matter of just going to your AWS, turning that on, and you have the same data over there. It's all synced up and ready to go. We talked about ransomware there in the sense that we do snapshots, constantly snapshot it. It's all policy based on your requirements, your RPOs and RTOs and stuff like that. And I remember hearing of a case happening at AWS, one of our customers, where they did get hit by ransomware. And all the matter of, and I believe the next slide may be a little more appropriate for it, but what they did is, they went back in time, took one of the snapshots, and then just mounted that and continued on. They were able to recover everything that they were working on, and it saved the day. I think their RPO was like 4 hours or something like that.
All right, we love stories with a happy ending.
Yes, very much so. So I mean, it kind of shows that the protection we provide there at not at an immutable storage level, but also at the NAS and block level.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for clarifying that. We're getting a couple of questions. I want to hit one of them right now, and then I'll get to the other one a little bit later. This question is, from a data sovereignty perspective, can customers select regions, the US, EU, et cetera? In other words, is there a UK specific region?
Yes. Actually, yeah. Wherever AWS is at, if you're talking to AWS, yes, we do have. There's a map. Next slide, I think, will probably give you a better idea.
We have a map. We're like 20 regions now, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
So I did want to address that. We'll get into that a little bit more later.
I've heard that before. The sovereignty part. Canada has sovereignty type of environments, and we provide. Our storage is there at one of the Equinix, or I can't remember the colos there.
Exactly.
There's quite a few colos that go through my mind.
And by the way, this is a good time to point that out since we began answering that question. There is a ton of information on our website about how all that works, about our regions, and about how we treat data security and sovereignty. And I would encourage anybody who's curious about that to please go read more about it at our site. Clone production volumes. This is a bonus use case, Ray. I put this in here. We were going to do 3, but I thought we'd add one more. As I like this one. So talk to us a little bit about VMware Cloud Elsewhere and how that works with the cloning.
Yeah, this is kind of like what I was talking about in the previous slide, that that we do have this cloning ability that helps out in certain situations, kind of like that ransomware issue happened. But it also, in development work, sometimes developers need to clone the production volume for whatever purposes they need. We do have that feature. It's based on snap shots and point in time and anything like that. And these clones can be remotely mounted. I mean, they're instant. They're copy on write type environments. So it's not like you have to clone and then wait for it to come. It's mountable, working. It goes and accesses all the data that it's pointing to. It is pretty much just pointing to the source itself, the production source, but it's not manipulating. If anything does get written on the clone, it branches off. So yep,
makes sense.
Yeah, it sounded like it made sense there.
We have another question about data recovery from a ransomware attack. And I before we dive in and begin to answer too much about that stuff, first of all, I want to acknowledge, I'm glad to hear people are interested in that topic and are responding to that. It's no surprise we have a lot of demand for that these days from our customers. And so to get questions on that here is no surprise. This is not, however, a backup or a ransomware specific webinar, and I feel we would not be doing the topic justice if we tried to answer too much or talk too much about that topic. And yet I want to address these a little bit. So I want to preface any comments about ransomware and about backup by saying there's lots more to be said on this topic. There's lots of information on our website about how we work with our partners like Veeam. And we do encourage you to go check that out. And remember, software partners like Veeam, Commvault, Zerto, Asigra, these are partners of ours for a reason. They have tremendous capabilities in their software. And our hardware and software capabilities, while very, very good, are not built or meant to act like a full-featured backup and recovery solution. We live in an ecosystem. We work with the best in the world at doing that and doing other things, whether it's McAfee and the antivirus comes to mind, another example, right? We work with the best and we bring them together in order to deliver to our customers the solution that's gonna meet their needs. So let's not turn this into too much of a discussion of backup, but I do want to acknowledge that it's an important topic, and we do have certain tools and certain functionality available, as Ray's been talking about, but there's lots more that we can talk about there, and I would encourage everybody to go to the website and learn more. We mentioned that we have worldwide data center coverage. We mentioned that we're in a bunch of different AWS regions. We added a few this month. Ray, I'm not sure everything's on this list. I'll have to go back and check. It's
yeah, I'm not too sure either.
Yeah. So please go to our website, get the latest and greatest, because you'll find all the regions, or certainly just reach out to us. We'll be happy to let you know. We've been an AWS partner since, oh my goodness, since we started back in 2011. All right, so that's a little bit about where we operate. I gotta say, I think this slide here, Ray, is one of those slides that everybody kind of nods their head and they see it, but we always thought, well, maybe there isn't a better way, and I know I'm wasting some of my money, but what can I do about it? Every organization is going to be different. You're going to have to do your own calculations in terms of how much money you're putting toward over provisioning. What we can tell you is that amongst our customer base, the gap is significant. It's a number that is just shocking when we look at it on a customer by customer basis, and we're glad that we can help them. Obviously, we're glad we can help them save money there from not over provisioning. But there's something more important going on here, which isn't necessarily obvious in the first read of this slide, I think, and that is that the longer you use Zadara, the better we get, because as a service provider, we're passing along, like we mentioned earlier, we're passing along our cost savings. Your costs to use Zadara on a per gigabyte basis are going to go down over time. It just happens. It's just a natural way of things, and we pass that along. You're not locked in to the hardware because you didn't buy the hardware. So your costs actually go down, which is why you see that green line depart from the blue line, and you actually get to enjoy some real savings over multiple years. All right, I like this slide. That's why I wanted it in there, Ray. I want to summarize a little bit. I hope this slide's helpful. Ray, you talked about enterprise-grade performance and security. I think we've hit the points there in terms of what you can expect from Zadara. Hopefully left people with the understanding that this is a truly fully featured system. And then on top of that and wrapped around that, this is a fully elastic model. It's agile. You can go up, you can go down. You're paying only for what you use. Hardware upgrades are included. Software upgrades are included. This is not a glorified lease, in other words. This is very much about only paying for the services that you use and the resources that you use. And then wrapped around that is this notion of management, which again, I would encourage people to think carefully about, because although many of our customers come to us and don't necessarily rate that as a top reason to come to us, instead they tend to rate the quality of our storage itself and the convenience of the model, obviously. The fact is, people 6 months into it suddenly have a very different opinion, and we're proud of that, and we're happy for that, because it tells us that we're doing right by our customers. So keep that in mind for anybody who's considering making a shift to a storage as a service model, that we really think these three components matter. Whoever you choose, be sure you're getting this, because then you're getting a complete solution. Gosh, Ray, we've talked a lot about how things work and what it means. I thought I'd put these slides in here. Don't take our word for it, right? Here's what people are saying about what we do. This one comes from Eindhoven University, and they were and are in a VMware environment. You mentioned something about DevOps and other use cases. Their research teams actually is what they were looking at. They are on a project basis, and they go up and down all the time. And so they were looking to bring us in and make that whole process much more streamlined, much more flexible. And we just completely transformed their approach to how the research teams procure and manage IT. And suddenly they could, they found their budgets go further, and they could do more, and they could spin up these projects and spin them down. And it didn't necessarily represent nearly the headache, that it once was when it was legacy.
Yeah, that's a very good point too. I mean, just to kind of add to that, in when you say spin up and spin down, we're very unique in that situation where you consume the controllers, you consume the hardware. Now, what if like you said, spinning it down where we're not using it, like schools, they don't go to school, on the weekends, or there's some time off, something where you don't need that storage being running 24/7. Well, we have the capability of hibernating the controller, so you shut them down, become 0 CPU, so you're not being charged for any CPUs. The data is still on the drives, so basically that's all you're consuming is the drives themselves, and that's going to be your charge. So it lowers your cost when you're not even using it. So
I'm glad you brought that up. That's actually we have customers doing that, and it's a significant savings. I have here. I'm going to go to another use case in a moment, but I have here another question, and I want to see if we can get to this. I have two questions actually. One is, do you have any healthcare customers using this for long-term PACS storage, PAC storage? It is an excellent use case. Thank you for asking. Yes, we do deal with a number of different healthcare providers and companies of all sorts. And we have more information about those on our website. I would recommend you go to our case study section, check it out. You may find something that fits exactly with what you have in mind. And if you don't, please let us know, because we have many, many stories that we can share that aren't necessarily published in our case studies. But healthcare happens to be a very strong industry for us. No surprise, right? Talk about data. Oh my goodness, they have so much data, and it just keeps growing by leaps. We have a few more questions, but I'd like to get to them at the end. And so let's keep moving here. K3 Business Technologies. This is important. This is a managed service provider, and I do want to point out for all of you listening that that Zadara is available through managed service providers and other resellers as well. These channel partners are very important, and we believe that they comprise that that third leg in the stool, if you will. The last mile is another metaphor for it. This notion of making sure that you're working through an expert like a managed service provider can really be the difference between getting a complete solution that's going to address all of your needs, because of course they know what questions to ask. They've done it. What's the number I could use? A gajillion. They've done it so many times. They know what to ask, and so we really encourage everybody to think about that, especially when it comes to a service like we offer, because the managed service providers, of their name, the word service is in their name, of course, they're going to provide ongoing value, and so we really find that can be a difference maker. K3 really loves working with us because we came in and replaced some legacy equipment. OpEx seemed interesting to them. They wanted to, in their case, they were looking for high availability and disaster recovery. And we were able to put that architecture in there. And lo and behold, although this was not the primary objective, we improved their VMware performance by 33%. That is frankly why I put this slide in here. I wanted everybody to get a chance to see that. If you want to unpack that and find out a little bit more about how that works, there's a case study on our website. I encourage you to go check it out. It's just interesting how, because of the way we built our storage solutions, we do end up streamlining things. We just do. We've got a great team that, because we had to build to scale, it just seems to work really, really well. And not easy to do. We're not going to pretend, but it sure is a pleasure when it does work, like it did there for K3. And everybody that every client's a little bit different, and different stories are going to be slightly different. But we see things like that from again and again across the board. Ray, you suggested we put this slide in here. I'm so glad you did. This is a good list of questions that we would encourage anybody on this webinar to use when you're out there looking for a storage as a service provider. These questions will give you the information we believe that's going to be important for you to make a fully informed decision. And of course, we wanted to provide some answers to these questions ourselves, so you can see Zadara's position. Please do go do your homework. Find out what's out there. We like to joke, but it's no joke that the closer you look at Zadara, the better we appear. And there's a reason for that. We're a services company through and through. And what does that mean? That means we got to get up every day and we have to earn your business. We don't ship gear and walk away, because that's not how the model works. And so when you approach it as we do as a services company, you ask a very different set of questions of yourself, and you view your customer relationship very differently than when you are a hardware vendor who's just trying to package up your stuff in a novel, financial package. And you're also, we're frankly different than the large public clouds who, have a great business model, but it's predicated upon multi-tenancy with very little regard for the kind of privacy and performance requirements that enterprise users demand. So I would encourage you to please ask these questions. As Julie mentioned at the top of this, the deck is available in the handout section, so please do download this deck and you'll have a copy of these questions, and you can use them in your research. Well, we are at the end of our presentation, Ray, and I want to make sure we've left time for questions. We've left a little bit of time for questions,
Perfect.
And I'm glad for that, because I know we have some questions teed up in the panel. Please do put your questions in there if you'd like us to answer them here. And if you think of anything later, of course, please reach out to us. Now you can reach out to us here on this screen. You'll see support.zadara.com. That's a great place to reach out if you like. You can also, and we encourage it, take a free trial. There's no credit card, there's no obligation. You will get the same onboarding experience in a free trial as any of our paying customers. And you will know exactly what it feels like to be a Zadara customer. And you can decide for yourself whether that's the kind of experience you're looking for. So maybe carve out a workload. Find something that you think you might want to work with us on, and consider that the workload you'll use for the free trial. All right, let's answer some questions. Ray, you ready?
Sure.
All right, you're always ready. All right, here we go. I'm running Veeam version 10, and looking for COS on your end and to set up a mutability protection plan. COS, cost of service, am I getting that right? There's so many acronyms.
Yeah.
So immutability protection plan. I'll start by repeating what I said before, and that is that we very much work with some wonderful backup software providers like Veeam, and if you want to explore what it might look like to bring in, say, Veeam and Zadara, we actually have some very detailed information on our website about that on our Veeam page, and you can see that the Veeam software, when coupled with the Zadara services and solution, gives you a chance to have 100% OpEx backup solution that is also multi-tier. And multi-tier means something, and you can go check it out and learn how you can have hot storage and cold storage and your immutable tiers. All of that can be handled within the Zadara environment and the Veeam environment together. So you really get a nice integrated backup solution, whatever your needs are, no matter how sophisticated, in other words, no matter how complex your environment. So I would encourage you to go check that out and see whether that's going to be a good fit for what you're looking to do. Oh, somebody's already set up an online session with our company this afternoon to see how it can meet their needs. That's literally in the questions panel, Ray. Thank you.
Awesome.
I appreciate that. We look forward to that. That's not a question, but I thought I would mention it. Let's see. I think I want to go up a little bit because I'd seen another question which I thought I skipped over, and I don't want to do that. Oh, here it is. So over and above the UI, is there an API method to interact with Zadara storage? Ray, you can help with this one. I don't know
Great
the answer.
question. Yes, that's actually a great question. Yes, we do have our API at rest. It is what is being used to manage the whole storage itself. Our GUI interface is actually running off APIs, like that we're Swift compliant, we're S3 compliant. One thing that I want to kind of emphasize about the S3, if you are currently using some sort of S3 storage, could be AWS or anything else, I mean, a lot of people will run scripts or whatever to automate things. Perfect. It's all you do is just bring it over and point it to us. We use the same APIs as S3, anything that works. There is no redevelopment or have to adjust anything. Just repoint it, good to go. I hope that clears that one up. Yes, I think that's a very good feature that we have.
Now that you're talking about it, I've seen it in action. Our ops team showed that to me. It's pretty cool.
Yes. Yep.
So we've got just a few minutes left, and I want to address just a couple more questions, and that is a couple of them are fundamental. One is, tell me more about your pricing, which is obviously very broad. I want to touch on a few points on the pricing, and if you're interested to learn more about the pricing, I want to encourage you to go to our website. There's a pricing tool, right? No surprise. Lots of folks, lots of companies realize that pricing is a top question. We put a pricing tool right on the top navigation on our website, so please check that out. And what you'll be able to do there, and this is important, is you're going to see a little bit. We kept it. It's a very simple tool. We've kept it as simple as we can. You can see that, like Ray was talking about earlier, the different types of storage are going to come with different price points, and so you get to start by specifying whether you're using, let's say, all flash, or maybe you're using HDD with flash cache in front of it. You specify that, you answer a few questions in terms of what kind of capacity you need, and if you're thinking about it for any particular term, we do offer some term discounts. So know that about our pricing. You can buy our services by the hour, so to speak, or you can set up for a longer term and really enjoy some significant discounts if you're so inclined. And you'll see all of that in the pricing tool, so check that out. And then the thing to keep in mind, excuse me, if anybody's familiar with, say, pricing at some of the hyperscale cloud vendors like AWS, you know, we've all been trained to think about it in terms of gigabytes per hour or something like that, right? And that tends to create a race to the bottom. Keep in mind as you're pricing that while we certainly do allow you to make those kinds of calculations, that you are in fact buying an enterprise storage stack. And I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised to see just how competitive our prices are, even when compared like that against something like the hyperscale cloud vendors or other vendors out there who may be offering. And you know, there's a reason for that. There's a reason we can keep our prices so competitive. We're not going to pretend to be the lowest price ever. That's not even our goal, frankly. Our goal is to be the highest value provider, and one of the ways we make sure we provide that value is that we build, like Ray said earlier, we build storage stacks using off-the-shelf components of the highest quality. These things are bulletproof for the most part. I mean, drives go down, yes, but the way we've architected them, you know we can push these things, and we know how far we can push these things, and we know we can give you the performance you're looking for in a very cost-effective package. So, you know, it's all about being a smart operator. We've been doing it for 10 years, and so when you look at our pricing, we encourage you to think about what your needs are, and maybe even talk to us, because the pricing tool, while it's great, doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. You may have, in other words, requirements that are a little bit more detailed, and we'll be happy to help cook up a more detailed picture for you if you like. So keep that in mind. All right, we only really have time for one more question, Ray.
Yep.
And this one is more technical, so this one's coming to you. I know it. It gets back to the slide where we showed the heart of it, where we showed the different departments and customers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a question that's you know, we touched on a little bit, but I think we want to elaborate on. It says, you know, all right, I'm running a company that has, I'm going to have multiple quote unquote customers in there. I suppose he means departments, right? And I want to make sure that that they stay totally separate. Is this how it works for real? And so why don't we go over that just one more time, just briefly. It's part of the reason why, by the way, Ray, why we call it virtual private storage arrays, isn't it?
That's correct. Yeah, and to answer the question, it's for real.
Yeah, it's for real.
It's all air gapped. The drives are all, they don't
call back.
It's like,
here we go.
Yep.
Oh,
okay, here we go.
Yep.
Exactly.
Talk about the air gaps and stuff, because it's, you know, I think this is the one on first pass. I think a lot of people pick up sort of generally, but then it's really, how's that work really?
Yeah, it's due to the patented software that does that for us. All the CPUs, the memory, everything is isolated from the other CPUs that are available there. They don't commingle. Data does not transfer there. The hardware, it's very hardware air gapped, I guess is probably the best way to put it. Yeah.
I'm glad you used that word air gap, because the term of art, I know, but it really is what is the difference maker.
Right. Yes, and that's how we are able to provide you with predictable performance. No noisy neighbors. You know,
Yep.
if your policy, you know, if one of these drives does go bad and replace, and if your policy is that we need that drive, great, we can provide you that drive for you to destroy, or we can destroy it for you and provide you a certified document that we've destroyed it. There is some companies that do require that, and we're able to do that. You can't do that on public clouds that I'm aware of.
Right.
Because the data is commingled with other customers.
Exactly. You know what? I'm glad we're ending on this, and I'm glad we came back to this. Thank you. I know we're at the end of our time, and there may be other questions. I'm sorry we can't get to everything today. Please do reach out to us, and we will do our best to answer your questions. And again, we encourage you to please go back into our website anytime. Take the free trial, explore on your own, learn more about the solutions that may interest you, and we look forward to speaking to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, thank you both for taking the time to speak to us today. As a reminder to the audience, you will receive a follow-up email with the on-demand link from today's webcast. To find out more about the VMUG webcast program, visit vmug.com and check out the education page. And please make sure to complete the short online evaluation that will pop up as you exit the webcast and let us know how today's session went. From all of us here at VMUG, thank you and have a great rest of your day.